can't be mortal.
Welcome, Mere Mortalites, to another episode of the Mere Mortals Musings. You have Kyron here on this side.
And you've got Juan on the other side, folks.
On the 20th of March, 2024, a Musings episode is where we get together on a particular topic and we try and give some practical, actionable advice, effective philosophy for your interest, for your consumption. I chose today's particular topic, and it's podcasting tools. So obviously, we are the tools, and we're podcasting. Yeah, no. I had a recent chat with Hannah, and Hannah is a girl who is writing a piece in a magazine for true fans, and she kind of like wanted some people who are users to just give an explanation of what they thought of the platform and things like this. And she was actually saying she was wanting to start up her own podcast. And so we had a bit of discussion. She was talking about Riverside, and I was like, oh, yeah, you might need these things. You don't need these things, etc., etc. So I thought it might be useful to just give a glimpse into how we operate, tools, operations, recommendations. And we even need to discuss, I guess this is also like business for us in terms of a couple of things that we may or may not want to keep of services that we already have. So
Absolutely.
yeah, I've split this up into hardware, production, software, distribution services, and then what do we need right at the end. So
Good. I think that's a wonderful way to tackle it. The reason I have a little giggly over here, folks, is because often myself and Karen do think very similarly with a lot of things. I'll hold it up to the camera, but I'll just call it out. My first 2 points and the way that I split it is software, hardware.
Beautiful. That's a go. That's a go.
Yep.
We're on top of it today. So yeah, let's talk about some hardware, man. If you had to guess, and I've split each of these into like essentials, thrills, things that are kind of like nice, and then others which are extras, which are you don't nice to haves, I guess. So if you had to say what are, and I've got 3 things written here, 3 essentials, hardware things for a podcast. What do you need?
Oh, that's a good way to ask it. And you know what comes to mind is definitely not
Good table.
the essentials. Well,
Bricks.
no, what comes to mind, and we'll
Herringbone
call that
bricks.
later. Honestly, it's a good laptop
Okay, good laptop.
or a good computer.
That's
I
one.
think that's number one. Why? In large part when and I'm going to bare bones podcasts, RSS feeds, you don't need video. It can be audio only.
Correct.
However, a good computer is going to help you with, recording, obviously connecting it to something. Yes, you could record with an external item that doesn't require a computer, but you're probably going to use some form of a computer to upload it in some way, shape, or form. Something reliable, something easy. There's a reason why, even though I am a aficionado for maybe more RAM or more power, I haven't gotten myself a big computer Sentinel looking thing to work from. Yes, it's better, but honestly, the laptop that I use, it's more powerful, more flexible. Honestly, it minimizes the threshold to do podcasts. So definitely, I'm going to say the laptop or the computer. Check.
Yep, definitely.
And then my other one would have to be, I'm going to go one more. It's going to have to be the Rode Pro, at least the hardware mixer. So we went through a period and phase of the Mere Mortals back in the day where we didn't have mixers. So we used software, and I think it was Voice BV Meter that we used to use. And I used to use that as well in a lot of the conversations that I used to do external to the studio when we had it. And honestly, it's chalk and cheese difference in terms of, again, it's simple, it's easy. I've talked about it before, but I've got the Rode Pro now that I use in the connections at the moment. And honestly, if you had to tell me that I was going to do a conversation with 3 people on a podcast a few months ago, I'd go, man, this is going to be an absolute head fuck. There's going to be such a hassle to set up. Now it's so, again, the threshold of doing a podcast is super simple. It's plug and play. I can connect it, have the settings, and off we go. That makes it really, really easy. I'd probably say those are the 2 essentials on my side.
Okay. I've actually got the mixer in the next section, more in production. It's a bit of both because it is hardware and software. Now, the 3 essentials I had were, you missed the most obvious one, the microphone. You obviously need a microphone.
I was questioning.
How are you going to record any audio without a microphone?
Well, no, because I was like,
You're
okay,
cooked,
because I was like, is it too obvious to say microphone? And would people miss? I was like, would people miss the concept
Oh,
of,
God.
well, if you had to start, what if you just used, earbuds, or what if you just used a connected headphone and don't even I guess maybe in my mind when I said microphone, I meant like this.
Mhm.
But is this actually essential to start a podcast as opposed to like just recording straight into your phone?
Yeah, look. I
The
mean,
quality is shitter,
yeah,
but that's why I didn't put it as essential for me.
I mean, if we're getting to that stage, a laptop is not essential either. No, I think like a podcast which could, you would say is professional. I would say you need a decent microphone.
Okay, I agree.
And then the last one I had is actually the earphones as well. One would probably disagree with this, but I think what he'll start to learn when he's in his studio is that microphones actually become more necessary, because you just got a lot of bleed between things without it. Feedback coming, well, especially actually maybe not as much, because you do get it if I was just listening to you via the laptop here, all of that would just be coming back into my mic and feeding in again. So you can kind of get away with it. But anyway,
weird comment on that on the headphones. The latest conversation that I had with Brody Casa, which released maybe in a week or two, I got a compliment that we weren't using headphones for that session. So I was like, that's
by
odd.
who?
By him. He was like, oh, I'm glad we're not using headphones. So I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, well, they can be
again,
uncomfortable.
for me, I'm neutral about it, but if it does improve so much the conversations of a podcast, I'd be down for it.
I think they can. Anyway, I say these are the essentials because these are all that I will be taking to Brazil for myself. Microphone, a laptop, and some headphones. Generally, and so the types people can get into all this sort of stuff. I mean, generally, just better for a newbie, better to get a dynamic microphone rather than a condenser. And the dynamic essentially means that, well, a condenser picks up everything, so every little sound going on. Unless you have like a fully sound proofed room, you're going to need a dynamic one. We've gotten these cheap ones. They've still been working fantastically for 4.5 years now. So, I'm noticing a trend with the headset with the microphone attached to it. You can kind of get away.
I have been seeing that too, actually.
The Shure SM7B is the one like Joe Rogan and a lot of the pros have. I don't know if it's necessary to have this. I can't ever see myself buying one personally. Let's put it that way.
You can see it here in right now. So currently I'm using a more newer mic that we've never really used before, right?
Yeah, where'd you get that from?
This is I'll shout them out, DJ City. It's a Rogue Pro mic. Fine. Honestly, the difference between what I've seen on, I just did an interview with someone on this one and someone not, and like myself on the other one. Much the same, man. Like there is a slight
how come you bought it?
Perceptible difference, but not that much.
Why'd you buy it?
Well, interestingly enough, so in next week's conversation, I'm going to have 3 people, and I didn't want to potentially have to, if I, for whatever reason, couldn't make it in time to get the microphones from your studio, I was like, okay, I'm going to have an extra one. And I also want an extra one just in case anyways.
Sure. Okay, cool. Yeah, going on to the hardware thrills, I've put all the extra things in here. This is where cameras, lightbox, mixers, we went 6 months without any of those. And so we did what, 30 something episodes without having any of those. It was okay. I think it takes it up to the next game, having a mixer for sure. The camera and light boxes is obviously YouTube stuff. Now you can do video podcasts. And YouTube is not a video podcast, although I've got a funny little thing related to that soon. But you can do video, obviously, instead of it being an MP3 file in the RSS feed, it can be an MP4 file, a video file. And I was thinking of all of these things, and when it comes to lighting and audio, and when it comes to hardware, if you've just got your laptop, if you've just got a microphone, and if you've just got some earphones or earbuds, there's not a whole lot you can really do with that in terms of upping the quality. Like, it'll give you a good quality, but there's nothing that you can really do internally on this microphone, which is going to make it better, my voice sound better. There's not a whole lot I can do with the actual hardware, or these things come in. When it comes to light boxes and mixers and stuff, this is where you can dramatically. I think it only takes like a little bit of effort to get the max, like not max, a little bit of effort to get really decent results.
Yeah, I agree.
Which way is the lighting coming through? How should the camera be positioned? How's it throwing shadows on my faces? It probably only took, I don't know, a couple of hours for that, maybe. Mixer the same. It's got all these knobs and dials on it. I played around with it for a bit. I watched some YouTube videos, probably a couple of hours. But if you want to get good, like really good at these things, that requires hundreds of hours of finding the optimal way to set up the lighting, the optimal settings for your audio, depending on the day. Is there a tractor or a mower outside? All of these sorts of things, noise gates, all this sort of stuff. Your Rodecaster Pro, if you wanted to get the max out of that, I reckon you'd have to put in 50 hours work to make it sound the best possible.
I was going to dispute that only for the Rodecaster Pro, and only for the reason that
I disagree. It's got a lot of settings in there.
Well, and this is the thing. I thought this too. There's a lot of settings on there, and I'd partly agree with you in that if I was trying to do it for other incoming audio to the Rodecaster, absolutely, dude. I'd have to go on settings. One thing that the Rode does really well, I guess, and I don't know how optimized this is though, is that as long as you put in, hey, what type of microphone is connected to that, so you get a choice of 4 different Rodes, and I think a few others as well. Like you can, if you have a mic that's not a Rode, okay, I totally agree with you, but it sets up the setting based on the microphone you have, and then it'll auto set it up. I don't think that's optimized though. So you're right. I think to optimize it, yeah, you're in for hundreds of hours to get it absolutely pitch perfect.
This will get into the next section about the production software and editing and things like that, but generally it starts with the hardware in terms of the sound that comes in. It's way easier to make that as optimal as possible. Then you will have to do very minimal editing with the actual audio software. But if you're trying to fix up bad audio the opposite way around, man, that's really, really hard. Yeah.
And so now I'm stepping away into a customer's lens, right? And I listen to a lot of podcasts. You're right. In the thrills aspects, I'd agree with you. Light boxes. Again, same with me. I did a couple of hours of oh, hey, you want a light that's probably in the back angle to get an outline of your shape, and then you want that. But to the cameras that we use, currently we have 4K cameras, but we actually just use laptop cameras. Why? Honestly, there's no direct benefit really to what's going on. Unless every single one of our audio members, every single one of our audiences is you need to be in 4K. This would be so much better. Maybe we would consider it, and that would just be a maybe. So I think there's a lot of things in the thrill / honestly, it's not needed to make a good podcast, because I then go again from a hardware perspective. When I listen to, I call out for you, a Tim Ferriss, a Joe Rogan, generally, now I'm becoming more of a fan of seeing it in video, but a lot of times I can't, and I just listen to it. And when I skip a podcast, or when I go, I'm not listening to this anymore, it's very clear to me. Too many ads, or the topic and conversation is just not interesting to me, or it's really, really piss poor quality, and I go, I'm not listening. This is terrible. I can't even listen to this. The hardware bit fixes up the quality perspective. And again, you only need a certain threshold to make it good. It's not ridiculous. I've never exited a podcast being oh, it was pretty good, but if they were really fine tuning it, that would have really never. Never happens.
And that's pretty much the same for all audiences. This is so hilarious, man. What people see on your screen right now, if you're checking out the video, this makes me so angry. I'm going to be swearing a lot later on. I'm just letting you all know this up front, because Riverside have just done something which grinds my gears that they've only just done it now. Anyway, the last thing, the full thrill thing that I had was actually soundproofing your room. This is probably the thing that we delayed on the most for us personally, just because it was kind of we could kind of get away with it. You can reduce most of the echo out with the audio software. I was just saying it's better not to have that coming in, but you can. That's one of the ones where you can kind of get rid of it. And so that's definitely more of an extra as a nice thing. And you actually can do really good soundproofing if you're just doing an audio one by going into your closet, getting a couple of pillows, putting fluffy things around you, and that's essentially as good as professional soundproofing. So that's the last of the hardware things that I had there. Should we go into some production software?
Yeah, let's go software.
All right, the one essential one. What's the one essential thing you need to produce a podcast?
Wow, this is going to be easy. Some sort of host to
No,
actually be able to put your
that's in
podcast up.
distribution services.
Okay,
production software.
Okay, you're putting that in distributions. Okay. Gee. I almost want to go none. I almost want to go none on the software because honestly, it would only be, again, depending on the podcast. I'll go with some sort of chat to chat, like peer-to-peer conversation connection. So that's a Riverside, a Zoom, a Google Meet, something to that effect. Because not everyone gets the benefit of doing in-person podcasts. We don't get to that often as well. So I'd say one of those sort of software. That's the only thing that I'd go, yeah, that's like really must have.
Okay. Kind of close. I think the essential thing is just a program to record and edit the audio. So, we did a false start on this very podcast, for example. If we had tried to time it so it's like, okay, as soon as we press record and as soon as we finish record, that's the full thing, then you could probably get away without having an audio editor software. But if you want to put in a little jingle at the front and you want that to sound good, if you want to get rid of some of the silences, some of the tapping, which we both have done numerous times, times when audio cuts out on your end, and so you're just talking and just waiting for me to get back in, or your guest or whatever, there's pretty much what you need. So it doesn't need to be really great. We use GarageBand and Audacity for the first 6 months until we got the Adobe Audition, and mostly just because we get that with a suite of other things with Photoshop and kind of some of the other thrills, which I'd put in there. But yeah, you definitely need some sort of software. And the thing is, I just listed a couple of them, which are just specific applications on your computer. But you mentioned as well, places like Riverside, Zencastr, StreamYard, they are putting tools in there that allow you to do the same thing. So when I was chatting with Hannah, I was mentioning stuff and she kept really talking about Riverside. And I was like, I feel like Riverside's overkill for you. But what she liked about it was that she could edit the audio within the actual Riverside thing as well. So I was like, oh, that makes sense. Should only need one thing rather than the multiple stuff that we've got going on at this very moment.
Yeah, and it aligns with, we'll probably talk about a little bit later, the stacking of software that, do we change it up? Do we leave it the same? Do we buy another thing? Do we remove one thing? Because you're right, is it a case that the really good software in that space, and that's why I was saying like the Riverside or whatever else equivalent, if it had a really, really powerful editing tool, you'd almost get rid of some of the other stuff that are genuinely at this point thrills. Like it is a thrill. It's like fun to do cool thumbnails or edit the audio to a specific degree, but definitely you don't need it. Like, if we really had to be honest about it, at the level that we are, how much of an impact is it making on what we release? Probably very little. It's more just what we enjoy to do. It's more than anything that.
Yeah, for sure. So there are a couple of other things, like I said, going live, doing video does require additional software. So when I go live with the book reviews of the Value for Value show, I need to use a software called Broadcast using this tool. I've also used one called Rocket Broadcaster before, which allows me to record audio. The audio that I'm recording also is getting streamed to places, to these podcast apps, which allow me to go live on the podcast app. And Zoom and Skype I believe Discord. You can also use many of these things to have similar functionalities in terms of like if you want to go live. But that really is above and beyond what the traditional standard definition of a podcast of putting it up so that it can be consumed and downloaded rather than consumed live. Extras, there's plenty of extras that you can do. I mean, like Calendly, if you want to think about it, anything that helps schedule guests, things that'll there's Otter.ai, Whisper that'll create transcripts for you, Canva or something like that can allow you to create image art. Others out there will scratch your balls. I mean, like there's so many ridiculous amount of things. If you want to see what is possible to do with a lot of just software, I recommend this podcast every now and then. It's called Behind the Schemes, and these guys are just wild in terms of they're podcasting 2.0, so they know all of the newfangled stuff, and they're on the bleeding edge a lot of times. They've got, if you send in a booster live to them, it will trigger a light show going off behind them, or it will move the disco ball that is above his head. If you send in a certain boost, it will trigger sound effects. I actually almost bought one of these lights that'll trigger close to using boosts and things like this, but I was like, maybe I'll see when I'm in person. But yeah, there's just so much. There's so many additional things that you can do to help create the audio recording editing of things like this. And a lot of it is just thrills. You don't particularly, if you would just want the bare bones, you don't need all that. Just
No, and
some
again,
audio
if you
editing software.
If you're listening to this and you either are thinking of creating a podcast or you have started creating a podcast, and there's other realms of podcast creation or content creation in general, but at least in podcasts, it's software. A lot of it is just thrill. Like all you need is somehow, some shape, get the input of data that are coming through from audio, upload it into an RSS feed. That's it. That's all you need to do. Everything that gets in between is just going to be adding more of a component of something to slow you down, unless you're trying to refine things.
Yeah.
And
so I mean, so if you had to guess this one, so have you heard of Anchor before? Do you know what Anchor is?
Yes.
So for those who don't know, Anchor is a subsidiary. It was bought by Spotify, and it's essentially the place where you can create a podcast for free. And it essentially is under the Spotify umbrella, or that's how it's uploaded onto Spotify first, and then onto other directories. Now, Anchor is a really easy way for you to start a podcast, and honestly, like to my definition of something that's semi-professional, it won't cut it, but you can just record using your phone, upload, and you can just put stuff out. Done. You've got a podcast up by the technical definition. How much of new episodes coming out, Juan, do you think are coming out from Spotify and from Anchor?
Like in the total podcast,
as in terms of a percentage of new episodes. So episodes published in the last month, how much was coming from Spotify?
23.
Yeah, I'm trying to bring it up because I know it was in Pod News. I'm just seeing if it shows up in the main things. I get the feeling it was like 50% of new episodes are coming out from them.
Okay.
So it is possible to do all these things. Now, most of those episodes, of course, are just going to be rubbish because it's just going to be someone like talking to their phone whilst they're in the car or whilst on a walk, and it'll be crazy background noise. It'll start at a random time, finish at a random time. There won't be like gaps or like if there's gaps and breaks that should be taken out, they won't have done that. So once again, you can kind of do all these things without it, but it's if you want to get to like at least a semi decent listenable podcast, I'd argue you need those couple of essential hardware things, and then also an audio program to edit. Should we jump into some Boostagrams, one? Then we'll do the distribution and even a discussion of what we need afterwards.
Okay, good. Let's jump into the Boostagram Lounge. Do you want to tell the folks at home why Boostagrams?
I do want to tell. So Boostagram, for those who do not know, is a message you can send directly within the podcasting app. So if you have ever wanted to get in touch with the Mere Mortals or say something, comment on an episode, this is definitely the way to do it. So if you go into now, not all podcasting apps unfortunately do this because it is kind of newfangled and it is interesting, exciting stuff. And places like Apple and Spotify, they're not with the times, man. They're old, they're legacy podcast apps. So if you go onto meremortalspodcast.com/support, you can go see a list of the apps there. I've done a run through of how you can actually boost into the show. And essentially it is you send a little bit of money attached with your message, and it's called a Boostagram, that money being in Satoshis and in Bitcoin. And we'd like to read out these messages to thank the people who help support the show monetarily and also give us a little bit of content.
Absolutely. All right, let's do it. We've got 3 to call out. One from Sir TJ the Wrathful. He says, Jason, thanks for all the work you continue to do. Your app is beautiful. Karen, great interview. You're really good at them. And that was 7777 sats sent using Podcast Guru.
Big grow. I don't know if that's a Striper boost. I believe that's. Do you know what Striper is, Juan? We're showing our age here.
This was the rock band.
Striper is a rock band, yes, yeah, and they had an album, I believe, called 7, something like that, or 777, something like that.
Right.
Yeah,
and that's why it's called the Striper boost.
Striper boost. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. So that is referring to the interview I did with Jason Hudgens from Podcast Guru, one of those great apps where you can send a boost in. Is that where he sent it from? I imagine.
Correct. Podcast Guru.
Yeah. Awesome. And I actually was chatting with the Dorfals recently, and I was on. They had a live stream going on, and they kind of like actually invited me to join the after show. They sent me a StreamYard link, and so got to chat with TJ, and yeah, they're awesome. They're great guys, great musicians.
Cool. There you go. Thank you very much, guys. There's one from Jen in Indie Boost, and that's 1,111 sats and using Fountain.
Yeah, I've seen her around using the Fountain app, and she responded to 1 or 2 of my comments as I was using it this week. So thank you, Boost.
There you go. Thank you very much, Jen in Indie. And then the big boy one from Macintosh. Ooh, he sends 21,000 sats on Fountain. Your self-help, self-improvement content like this is my favorite from you all. Go podcasting.
Thank you, Macintosh. Damn, baller. 21,000.
Jeez.
Only 21 million Bitcoin, and he just sent us what 0.0000001% of all of them.
Yeah.
Right then. So thank you, Macintosh.
Huge call out.
I don't. It's probably a little bit more zeros on top of that. But yeah. Thank you so much. And yeah, he was just mentioning that he hadn't tuned into the show. I think he's been pretty busy recently, going to Bitcoin conferences and all sorts of things. So he did a make good there, a big one. So thank you so much, Macintosh. If you want to see your name on our leaderboard, once again, meremortalspodcast.com/support, you can kind of see where you are. I think that's probably taken him above Cole now, to be honest. So Cole McCormick, he's missed an episode or 2, and I believe he just got leapfrogged. Damn. That's it. How embarrassing. No, but thank you so much, Macintosh, Jen, and Indy, and so TJ. All of these go towards some of the hardware, some of the what did I call it? Production software, because those things cost money, and then also into our next section here, which is the distribution services. Now, Juan, you already spoiled it before by
I did. I spoiled
by letting us.
You need a host.
You need a host. Gotta have a host. Gotta have a host. So a host, for those who do not know, is essentially what they do is they handle all the bad bandwidth. They give you the stats. They store your files and make it accessible to the internet and podcast apps, just in general at large. So there's actually something that not many people know, because when I tell them I have a podcast, and they typically ask, oh, where is it? And I just say everywhere. And they'll then, in their mind, they think, and I've seen this because I know 1 or 2 people have asked me, they think that means I individually upload it to every podcast host. They think that's what it means. We wouldn't be
podcasting in that format if that was
no
the case.
way.
Can you imagine
no,
that?
Absolutely not. No, not a chance in hell. So for those who don't know, podcasting, the way it works is you put it up in a central place. It can be a podcast host. You can self-host it if you want. And then you have an RSS feed, and basically all that podcast apps do is once they have that RSS feed, they just check it. They just see, oh, they uploaded a new episode. Here's all the details about this episode, ingested into their app, and then then when you hit play, they either download it for you or they stream it directly using the internet and all the amazing things that the internet can do. So for us, I think it might be just worth talking about like our little history. So we were on Whooshka. We tried going on Sounder. We went back to Whooshka. We went across to Buzzsprout for this very show. And then we've just been on Buzzsprout for probably like the last 2 years, I'd say, maybe even a bit more, 2.5. And I'm this close to moving us onto a new one called Podhome. And the cool thing with podcast hosts is it's easy. It's easy, quotation marks, to switch host. It's not hard to actually, if you really want to do it quickly, you just go to another one and say, hey, copy all this stuff over here. They copy it into there. They bring it up. You host it again on another place. Awesome. The problem with that is each host has their own peculiar methods of ingestion, of the way they display things. And so sometimes stuff can just kind of break a little bit. It won't break it entirely. It'll just make it look messy. Your show notes will be in a different format. A thing that you used to think was like always at the bottom in your footnotes now isn't appearing always in the bottom. These sorts of things where it just makes it look not as nice. We've actually jumped and I said Blubrry and this other one, Podhome, because they're innovating, they're doing cool things. They allow all of these new stuff that I've kind of had to do make goods, because if I wanted all of the cool new features, I would have had to self-host. And this has actually been the two things. One, the two things which I looked at doing was self-hosting a Lightning node and self-hosting our own podcasts. And I dilly-dallied on both of them. And this is one of those times where you might look at me and go, Kyron, procrastination. You're not like putting in the effort required. I think it was almost like a self-defense mechanism. My own brain was telling me, like, do not do these things. Do not put in the time, because whilst I believe I could have got them up and running, the maintenance cost of fixing all the things, it wouldn't be like, I like kind of one and done learning. Like you learn it and then you reach the end and it's like, sweet, I've got the skills. I know what I need to do. For those, it would be like committing yourself to a multiple extended never-ending journey of learning the intricacies of this thing, and then okay, now you need to know how bandwidth goes. Oh, okay, now you need to learn about the newest firewalls, and you got to update this thing, but this is breaking all the and this is where I just go, man, I'm really glad I didn't I didn't go all the way in for those. So good hosts I can recommend that are mostly podcasting to compliant. Buzzsprout, if you want really good user interface, easy upload, things like this. Blubrry, if you want a bit more ability to manually alter some stuff, have all the cool new things go live and things like that. And then Podhome, which I do hope to move over to soon, just waiting on something that's outside of my control. Those are the ones that is like, it's likely it'll be interesting, the user interface and how easy that stuff is. I've seen some videos and it looks okay. And that's because it's such a recent new host that he was able to build all of these things from scratch, and so he didn't have any legacy software or code to deal with. It was all brand new. It was all good in that respect. The only problem is with him, it's and this is Barry, because he's just been around not a long time. You don't know if he's going to be around for another 5 years or 10 years. True, like Blubrry and Buzzsprout has been. He's also got this deal. I don't know how he's done it, where basically he has unlimited bandwidth going out. So he's just offering like $15 US a month. You can host as many episodes, as many podcasts as you want, biggest files that you want. It doesn't really matter to him. And Adam and Dave were just questioning, like, man, this is really good. I hope you can keep this up, but you know, that might change in the future because those types of
that's a pretty humongous call out. You could get called very easily by someone uploading some gigantic multiple files.
Yeah, it tends to get abused, and then when it gets abused, that's when your software, it's not software. What do you call them on your data center? They'll be like, "Yo, bruh, this unlimited, this unlimited plan that you've got going on, we need to change this." So, but in any case, I think it's really worth taking the risk jumping over to him, and I've seen a couple of podcasts have already done it. No, I'd noticed no change in what they're doing, so definitely want to do that. The interesting thing is, and this is new news, Juan, breaking news.
Very new.
So Blubrry. So one of the things I always really wanted when I was starting off the podcast, and this is probably getting into the thrills type of section, is you mentioned it. I hated uploading. Uploading into multiple places is a pain in the ass. And yeah, you'll know this with distribution, and we'll talk about this when we're getting onto like the distribution of things outside of the podcast. But for us, we're always just uploading the audio and the video. I had to upload them separately. Audio onto the podcast host, video onto YouTube, because YouTube's the only game in town. Now, I was, from the very get-go, was like, wouldn't it be awesome if I could just upload my video onto my podcast host and they automatically distributed that out to YouTube? Some places kind of did that, but not really. That they would usually do the opposite, which is like you upload your audio, they'll create an audiogram that will get pushed out onto YouTube. It looks kind of shit. And I was always just like, man, this would be a great service if I could have just upload, because our video podcast was exactly the same audio as the audio one. That's how we did it. And what's actually happened is Blubrry has done the opposite. So they've created this service called Vid to Pod, and I was experimenting with this today. And essentially, what they do instead is they take the video from YouTube. They take the audio from YouTube and convert that automatically into a podcast. So it's the opposite way around of what I was thinking. And what they do is they basically get a playlist. And if you have a playlist on YouTube, they will automatically ingest that and create that into a podcast. And I was like, all right, well, I've got Blubrry. Let's see if they can do this. And so I went on to the Mere Mortals. I've got it here, conversion complete. And I did it with our Mere Mortals episode clips. So apparently, I'm like, this is live right now. I've yet to actually check this out. Apparently, there will be an episode's clips YouTube, a podcast of our episode, just titled like Mere Mortals episode clips, I imagine.
Like underneath our current one?
I'm not sure, man. I have no idea where this thing is. I'm just I'm like testing this out right as we speak. And
it does sound very interesting, though.
This thing had 900 this thing had 900 clips in this playlist. So there should now be a Mere Mortals episode clips playlist with 900 things in there. I think I see it here, man. I think I think I might have done this, managed to do this. That's hilarious. I'll send a link in the
chat. Show me. That's actually quite interesting. It's like video to audio.
Yeah. So that's kind of one thing they can do. All right, Juan, the thrills. What do you think, like, the distribution services thrills are? What kind of things do you imagine are stuff that's not necessarily absolutely needed for podcasting, but can kind of be all right?
I guess for this doesn't even come to. I'm just trying to think whether this is or isn't, like the uploading of transcriptions, like, or the ability for the distribution host to be able to pass through some sort of transcriptions file or SRT so that it can go and create those transcriptions. Yes, good. Is it absolutely necessarily? Probably not. The thing with hosting is that there isn't really like a lot of items that I would pull under the thrill. There's a lot of podcasting 2.0 aspects that I guess I would sit as thrills. You know, it's still at this stage, it's not a you must have it or you're doomed to fail. I think you could still consider it in the thrills,
Mhm.
but honestly, that's probably the area that I've spent the least effort when it comes into podcasting that we've been doing, and so I don't think I've even played around with any thrills, to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like for me, this is kind of once again not exactly podcasting. It's somewhat adjacent to it, which is uploading to social media things from your podcast. So this would be like tools for clipping, for example, the audiograms. I already talked about that. I think it's called Hootsuite that does automatic posting to social media. Our inbox is of our email is constantly full with just messages from SEO marketers and people being like, "Yo,
Correct.
man, they're pretty brutal as well." I'll see if I can find one to read out because it's hilarious, like how nasty is,
Scathing there.
yeah, nasty is maybe not the right word, but they'll just say some shit being like, bruh, your podcast is shit, and they'll circle all of these things. It's most of it's automatically done. I can't find a good one at the moment. I'll see maybe
But I
later.
was going to say, okay, if you're including that, then for sure things like, and I was been talking to you about this offline, but things like the ability of Riverside to create automatic clips or the different AI tools out there that allow you to get clippable and then distribution of social media platforms. Yep, you called it out. Just trying to think if there's anything beyond social media platforms and a podcast that you would distribute it to.
The only thing I've got really written here was, the extras is you probably want a place to connect directly with your audience. There's getting, once again, it's like there's getting more into just the general strategy of promotion, of connection. And this is where it'd be like, you might want to at some point get an email list. So you'd probably need something like, what's one of those big, is it Surveymonkey or something like that? If you, what's that?
Surveymonkey, yep.
Okay, yeah. Or there's other ones where it'll bulk distribute out emails. Because Surveymonkey also, that's more for like doing surveys, right? That's
but you can
also use it just for
emails
general email. Yeah. So something like that. An intermediate thing might be Discord or using like an IRC chat. These are all just kind of like little extra bit distributional thrills that you can kind of add onto the, I guess, like the notification system, if you want to call it, for like, yo, new podcast episode is out. Not anything that is directly podcasting related, but it helps to promote your stuff. Yeah. All right, Juan, let's get into it. What do we need? So we've talked a bit about all the stuff that we have. I think some of this could probably be dropped. Maybe some stuff needs to get added. Here comes the swearing. Riverside. So we got Riverside in April of 2023, and we got it for some specific reasons. One, we were using Zencastr before. Zencastr was free for what we were wanting to do. They changed it and wanted to start charging. That was cool. So we basically needed to decide what we wanted to do, because we were broadcasting live onto YouTube. Now that Juan is in a separate location, we couldn't just do it through the OBS software. So essentially we needed a place that would conglomerate our two streams in together and put it up onto YouTube. The reason we did through Riverside was there was a couple of things. One, I thought they could do transcripts at the time. They just ended up being so crappy. And I realized eventually, there was actually something, I could have used Premiere Pro before, which I just had no idea.
For such a long time.
For ages. Yeah, I think I had another note on that later down. So there was that. And it also allowed us to do it in higher quality than Riverside did. And than Zencastr did. And I think there was also looking at the pricing. I think going through Riverside ended up being good. But, if we look at it now, I was very dissatisfied with Riverside for one thing, which is if you look at all of our previous episodes up until today, you'll see the video, it just sandwiches us to our two, what would you call it? Like the landscape videos that we're recording in. it just sandwiched them together. So it left this huge
Correct.
black gap at the top, huge black gap at the bottom, and all this unnecessary stuff at the sides over here.
Mhm.
I emailed them. I messaged them on Facebook fucking like 3 or 4 times. Yeah. And then I see today they finally fixed it to what we essentially what you see on the screen there is what we
Yeah.
see. And they told me, can't do it, bro. Technically, it doesn't work like that. It needs to, this is on YouTube's and this sort of thing. And I told them no. I told them you're wrong. This is how all the software, and I knew they were just putting
Yeah,
me off.
you called this out for ages too,
and
dude.
I'm so annoyed that they've just done this now, because essentially my proposal is that we drop Riverside. I don't think we need it anymore. What do you think, Juan? What do we need Riverside? Because you've seen me over the last 3-6 months get away from video. I'm not. I just don't see the point in it as much. What would be any reasons for renewing Riverside in 3 weeks' time?
Well, one of the questions I was going to ask you then is how would we do the conversations? It's going to be interesting for people listening at home. So, say when you go to Brazil, what platform would we use to essentially communicate?
So, this is where we need to decide, and this is real time talk for everyone at home. We haven't discussed this previous. Do we want to go live on YouTube is a question. It's kind of handy. I've always just been dissatisfied with the way it looked. It's actually kind of, the annoying thing is that they've fixed it up right now, which is now a huge boon as to why we should maybe do it again. But like I said, I've been kind of meh on the whole video side of things anymore. I don't want to create clips from it. I don't care, about making it the ultimate best looking thing that's going on. I'm just using this random camera now at the moment. The way that we could just do it is, when I move on to Podhome, we could then be live on the podcasting apps. So therefore it's like, hey, you can get the audio if you just go onto a podcasting app. Obviously it would be a slightly harder than just the little link I've sent out here. How many people? We've got 4 people in our live stream now. One of those is me, maybe another one of those is you. So it would be, for Patricia, it would probably be slightly harder for her. And she wouldn't get the visual element, obviously, unless it is possible to just do it through one mechanism and just have you recording and just, it's just showing you. So what are your thoughts, man, on going live on YouTube? How necessary?
Honestly, and at least so this is coming real time, folks, where if you actually look at the numbers and the stats of doing these sort of things, I'd probably lean towards nah. Honestly.
The other thing is, with the way YouTube works now, there is a way where they ingest podcasts in. So it's not like we wouldn't be able to have these discussions show up on YouTube. 0 extra effort on our part. If you go check out the Value for Value show, for example, the 2 episodes I did before starting to go live again, those ones they were just automatically ingested, and the same thing would happen for the Mere Mortals if I decided to turn that on. So there's the only reason would just be for people like Patricia. I don't know if Patricia watches us as if she's at home.
Apparently they're currently watching on the TV at home.
Okay, so this is one of those things where it's like, it's a tough decision, because I don't want to, she's been showing up rock solid for pretty much like the last 2 or 3 years.
Well, I think it would be the case of, again, what's the outcome that you're looking to do with the podcast, right? And then for us, it's, again, are we making our gains on the video streaming? Probably not at this stage. That's not what's really winning it for us. There is something to be said about the continuation of it to build up people to bring it in. But like, I'm going to be honest to the folks at home right now, that's not a priority, I would say, in terms of where we're sitting with the podcast. Not really, not in a video streaming way.
Yeah.
I would be game for the next few months, especially while you're away, pulling it back all the way through. Just look, keep it simple, keep it doable. And here's another piece, I guess, for folks at home, whether it's a podcast or something else. Again, you want to reduce the threshold. If adding the camera work and trying to go live while we are away somewhere and then something's stuffing up and then it's, we got to deal with that. It's one less thing that will ensure that we can actually continue to produce something day in, day out at the right cadence.
Yeah. And so, like, I'm in Brazil, right? I'm not going to have the microphones, the lights. I have no idea what the lighting situation will be there. That's something I can't really control. And I'm not going to bother to try and make it good whilst I'm there. So it's kind of like, I'm just so annoyed that Riverside did this today, because it was an easy like flat out, the video looks kind of crap anyway. Now
and then they do that.
Now, and like the last,
here's another.
They knew it. They knew what today's episode was. They saw the pre thing, and they're like,
"We got to keep them somehow."
Well,
there's a couple of other things as well. So talking about this like openly in live session, if we do get rid of Riverside, then I will be purchasing a
Opus,
AI
right?
clipping thing.
Yeah, which was my very next point. Opus Pro for clipping. You tried that out the other day. How did it go?
Tried it out. Really good. Slow in some regards, but fast in others. Slow in the sense of you kind of have to wait the 15 minutes for it to process a video, and the way that it operates, it's you give it a YouTube link, or you can upload something, but you can.
I believe they have an integration with Premiere Pro as well, which I get the feeling would make it faster. Maybe
they do have an integration with Premiere Pro. It also has it. You can also schedule posts through that to YouTube Reels, to Instagram, to everywhere. So it would fast track a lot of that as well.
Now the reason this would be interesting is Juan is going very hard on the video on his end. Like he's creating a nice
here's the thing,
studio.
right? So in my mind, again, I went, okay, there's two clean things at the moment that we're trying to put more effort in. Probably, we've done a lot of different things, and I've done the fitness stuff, and you're doing the Valley for Valley as an extra one. But I went, okay, part two again, just kind of bring you back to the core. There's book reviews, and then there's the Mere Mortals podcast, which is us talking, but often more as well now, it's conversations that we're doing. And one of the things that it happened over the last two conversations that I've done now, right? Which has been Anthony and Brody, Anthony Nowd and Brody Kasser. So in both those conversations, I ended up finding myself, with the Anthony one, I edited probably for like 2 hours the video, right? And in the end, when it uploaded to YouTube,
the first 15 minutes looked good.
Truncated it. Hey,
the first 15 minutes looked good.
Yeah, truncated it to 19 minutes, and then the hour podcast wasn't available. You can listen to the full audio; it's fine. But what I noticed was, even with like in my mind, it like ate me up. I was like, oh fuck, I didn't get post the whole thing. Then I guess a bit that dawned on me, I was like, okay, but if my viewpoint at the moment is like, okay, well, the Chris Williamsons of the world and a few others, they do like really beautiful long form video content, which is also a podcast. But if you look at our stats, which is probably the case for most podcasters out there, we still get more listens on the audio than we do the video by far. And again, some of these videos, dude, we spend 2 hours, 3 hours worth of effort in editing, and it's like, fuck, for what? And then I went, okay, well, where we do get some more bang for our buck, and whether you want to call it, it's no longer like it's part of our distribution, it's clips. Now I was creating those clips myself, and it takes like an hour. And I went, okay, whether it's through Riverside or Opus Clip or something else, I think that's going to become a little bit more of, for me, if I'm going to focus in on using or creating them more, I want something that's going to be, I'm going to pay for something that's going to speed this up way faster, and I can create a lot more. But even more, and this is going to sound maybe interesting, but we'll see how people react at home. In the last conversation, I was trying to optimize it so that two things. One, the person I was interviewing had a really good shot in the video for the camera. And then I wanted to get like an overall viewpoint of like when I talked and they talked and whatever. And as I was editing, not that I've finished, but as I was editing, I was like, fucking who cares about the wide shot view? Who cares about the overall view where I'm talking? Because audio format, no one gives a shit. Yeah, you're not seeing that. Video format, though, unless you're really watching eyeballs on the really long form, which again,
Yeah,
there's not many.
create clips from the wide format.
Exactly. There's not many people. It's the people are checking the clips. And so that's the value, I think, of a lot of the videos.
Yeah.
Not so much the long form. And I went, you know what? From the next conversation that I do onwards, I'm not going to have a camera on me anymore.
Yeah.
Like that's it. Where I did this with the Jeff podcast, Jeff Yu, if you actually want to go check that out on video. That full one, I had 2 cameras on him and I was able to just swap back and forth. It makes editing though way quicker as well. Because all of a sudden I can just be like super quick. I'm like, I just cut here, cut here,
random points. Like
here.
doesn't even really matter, right?
Yeah, it's like just at random I can do that. Add the, as we've talked about, like the post-production editing and some of the audio. And again, even in that, I've gone, look, if I watch a long form video, maybe I'm going to watch it for 20 minutes, half an hour. I'm probably not going to watch more than that. Equally, my post-production editing is going to be heavy at the front and very light as it goes through the middle. Why? If you're tuning in at that point, you're probably listening to it. It's from listening to the what's talked about, not all the thrills and the frills of pictures and videos and
the
stuff.
The drop
like
off rate is what do you call like a reverse exponential, where it's just like
exactly. So we all see that. So for me, dude, I went, okay, you know what? Reviewing the stack and what's a thrill and what's not. I went, okay, let's focus in on good audio hygiene. So putting more panels and stuff like that to make it good. Getting the light situation correct for these conversations that I want to be doing, but optimizing it so that for now, at the very least, in my mind, I go, hey, good audio and video that aligns to distribution of the content to get a further reach. I think in my mind, I go, we're probably at the next stage of readiness of stepping up our amount of numbers of people that know us and getting a bit of a network effect to then start pulling more people into the podcasting 2.0 space and being like, cool, now that we've got an extra, whatever, we've multiplied by 5 the amount of people that are checking us out. Hey, we invite you to continue to operate in the podcasting 2.0 space. And even if we get 1%, well, again, it's more than the current sphere. I fear that going in the current path that we're doing, we're not generating any more new viewers, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And if you actually look at our stats, I think for the majority of things, I think we've probably stalled for the last few months. Like it's just kind of been on par, just the last few months.
Agreed. Yeah. The next episode I want to talk about strategy wise, just all of these sorts of things. So we can get into that a bit more then. But yeah, I'm pretty much agreed on all that stuff. And I think the clipping as well. I want a new strategy for creating like social media stuff, but which involves more targeted, directed stuff, more individual. Me creating a piece of thing exclusively for Instagram, for example. But yeah, that'll have to wait until after Brazil, so like 4 months time. So I think like clipping wise, I know it helps. I know people tell me like, oh yeah, I see it come up and it reminds, like it's just a reminder thing. Like it's some of it goes semi-viral and might bring in a couple like more people and who to the YouTube and they or to our Instagram, they might eventually make their way over to the audio. But yeah, you're right, it's very slow. And I think there's ways that we can do things to expose ourselves to new people, expose ourselves. Yeah, cool. The only other thing I had was just continue using the Adobe Suite. If this is one of those ones where it's like, personally, if I wanted to jump off, I could probably do like everything free, open source. Price isn't really our issue, but I do like Adobe's, what is it, 90 a month? Is that how much it is, one?
I think it is 90 a month Australian. But and I would say equally
that's $1,000 a year.
It is in the thrill, but also I do get a lot of joy using the Adobe products, right? Whether it's the Audition is easy to record on, the Premiere Pro is powerful for a lot of the stuff that I'm doing, even though I'm going to be using, as you say, Opus clips for something else or similar. It allows for like a really easy integration. Exporting stuff is really easy with it as well.
Yeah. It's been fantastic. I've nothing bad to say about it. The for the use case that I have had for the last 3-4 years. I'm also going to be cutting out other stuff. If you notice from Anthony's one, if you go into the audio, there was no specific thumbnail image that Juan created for that. There was just a generic one. That's going to be happening more on basically everything. And this is where it was like, personally, if I wanted to, I could probably spend that bit of time to go all open source, all free software. But that would also require effort. I'm not going to be putting in that effort over the next
couple of months.
So I think just sum up with that was probably don't need Riverside. Let's get Opus Pro, at least for yourself, for the clipping. Have you tried any of the other clipping stuff? Is there any others that are worth looking at?
Honestly, must not be, because I tried another one. I can't remember what the name of it is.
Yeah. Okay. Yep. All right. And then still use the Adobe Suite for the foreseeable future, and then just moving onto the mere mortals, and then eventually probably the book reviews and value for value onto there as well. But we've still got a fair bit of time on Blubrry, so might as well just keep it there for the moment. I'll give you my summary one. We covered a lot of stuff here, a lot of interesting. Hopefully people who are new get a taste of what it is to podcast, the kind of things you need to consider.
There's a lot.
But honestly, I don't think you need to stress that much. There are a couple of essentials. We mentioned those: getting a microphone, getting a laptop, maybe some earphones. We've all got earphones. Like, that's probably not even something you need to consider. Half the stuff you'll already have, and then just a podcasting host. The bare bones essentials, we got by with 6 months with almost nothing. It cost us, I would say, the two mics. We already had a laptop. We were using Wooshka for hosting. We had the GoPro. Minimal, $300 maybe for the first 6 months. I'd say pretty close to that.
Yeah, and even then, if you remember, after the GoPro, even after a while, when we're like, oh, we need to upgrade the camera, we still got a really cheap.
Yeah, we got a $300 one. Yeah, that was awesome. I still got that, still up there.
Whereas now,
if anyone needs a $300 camera,
we have two 4K cameras,
hefty, big
that
boys.
we don't even use right now for these sort of conversations.
I mean, I was still using that one. If it was here, I would have used it. But
you know what the interesting thing is, to be honest, man, that I've been actually here's my tip. Actually, I keep seeing a lot of, hey, buy the Sony Alpha, whatever, or the Nikon D whatever number for your podcast, because it can do really clean, and now they can record for forever. A lot of them do to $2,000. Or they're getting up there when you pay for lenses. And I kind of go, these video cameras are 4K and they're pretty damn good. In fact, they're quite good quality and they zoom in and out.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're getting anything better realistically from a camera. Yes, you will probably get a better aperture. And there's talking about cameras in particular. But this, dude, that's hefty enough for whatever you need, honestly. And if you look at the stuff I was generating, in fact, we don't even export them at the highest quality. We just don't. The last one I did, it was just on HD. There's no point going in 4K, because honestly, it's unless you want to become the Chris Williamson on video podcasting type of deal, cinematic stuff, you probably don't need it.
Yeah. I mean, as you get deeper, you'll find there's just so much stuff, man. The well goes deep. Very deep in terms of all the things that you need to. Too. Yes, exactly.
Actually, here's the interesting. I don't know if the exact number's correct here, but Chris Williamson on a recent podcast mentioned how much it cost to produce one of the podcasting conversations, and I don't know if it was a one time or if it was he does, in a day he'll do 4 conversations.
Yeah.
How much do you think it would roughly cost? I'm going to say it's a day.
Yeah. So it should, even there's me using my Hollywood type brain thinking, okay, maybe, if you had 1 or 2 people out on the set to help him, that would probably add up to a couple of hundred. Add all the equipment. Well, I mean, he should already have the equipment unless he's renting it out, which would make sense. But I would want to say cap it at maybe $2,000 an episode or something like that.
Dude, I was gonna say similarly. I would have thought like $2,000. Okay, maybe pushing at $5,000.
Yeah, same.
Don't get me wrong. I need like go double check this, but I'm pretty sure I listened to it today or yesterday. $32,000.
That's so absurd.
32, and he did say that he does lease the equipment, which for me, I'd go, okay, it must be the leasing of like ridiculous cameras and the light setup of the people. But yeah, you can go down the rabbit hole and be spending $30,000 on a day. And I've looked this up personally because I was thinking about this as a side business, but you can rent out studio places to do your podcast and they can also record it. Dude, that can be easily $800 per episode.
Yeah.
So it's like, you can get pretty expensive real quickly. You don't need that.
Yeah, exactly. So there's talking to beginners. As you start to get into intermediate, as you start learning, okay, and this is what I was saying, like you got to focus on what makes business sense. For us, we've always erred on the side of lean and mean. We don't need, I don't want to have to scale up this, and in the scaling up need to scale up the audience to match the scaling. You get trapped in this cycle of leapfrogging from thing to thing, where he's now like, okay, well, I've got to run ads to make this, to be able to do this, and you get into this really vicious trap, I think, and you end up learning a whole bunch of stuff that you might not want to learn. And this is where it's good to like just expedite and be like, I don't want to learn clipping. I don't want to do this, chuck that off to someone else. I don't want to learn how to do the visual stuff. I don't want to have a dedicated room in my house. I'm going to get someone to set this up for me. It can get really deep really quickly. So just definitely worth thinking about, careful with like the limits on stuff that you want to get to. These video cameras, for example, I did a fair bit of research being like, okay, these ones can do this thing, this can do this thing. And then you realize, one of them's actually not good for live streaming. The whole time it would have been nice to live stream with it, but it's got this ugly ass red thing on it for some reason that you can't get rid of. And it's just like, well, okay, well, shit. Let's get a new camera just so we can do that. It makes no sense. The last one that I just had here was I generally recommend a periodic clean out of your practices. So we're very entrenched with Adobe Pro, for example. You've been using it for probably 4 years now. I'd say about every 9 months or so, it's worth just doing a retest of how the audio sounds, how big the files are, what the show notes look like on various apps, how things are coming across. Because it's in these moments, that's when I realize, I could have been creating transcripts with Premiere Pro. Idiotic. I should have realized that ages ago. These filters that I used to add for the audio, and I thought I was doing them for a while, and then I wasn't seeing any personal benefits from it. And then I was like, I'll get rid of this. It wasn't until I listened to the audio on a really good sound quality device with really good earphones where I went, the reason I had this at some point was because the echo. But, I don't hear the echo through my shitty phone wherever I've thrown it here. Blah, blah, blah. I don't hear the echo through this because the speakers on this are crap. It's worth just going through all these things and you'll realize usually it's a bad thing. You'll realize, oh God, like this is not coming through as I wanted to. And very rarely will it be, that extra thing that I'm doing, I don't need to do. I can probably get rid of that because it's not making a difference. But usually it's the other way around.
And the other one as well is just testing new tools.
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
Look, when we started podcasting, AI or generative AI and a lot of the tools that didn't exist, man. They weren't around. Now they are coming out so quick, so fast that we would be fools not to utilize some of the new stuff that comes out because
and some
it just makes
them
it way easier.
Some of them come attached with your thing. The Adobe, I was looking at this up today because I was just like, they might already have some AI stuff in the Adobe Premiere Pro or Suite. I would be willing to bet that, I don't think they do, but I'd be willing to bet within 12 months they'll have automatic clipping in Premiere Pro.
And one of the things that I just recently really started using was, I don't even know if you know, but Premiere Pro has auto color correction. So you can get all of your clips that you create, or even different camera angles and stuff, and you can auto color match all
I
of them
didn't know that.
and make it good. So I was like, dude, I was manually doing this. Why the hell am I doing this? But here's an example for you actually with I think it's with Opus Clips. Yeah, with Opus Clips. They haven't released it yet, but this is why the reason I want to be using it. They do automatic B-rolls. So, so when you do a clip, it's not just always the person talking, it's also the person talking, and sometimes it'll be a relevant video that kind of comes up around it. So it kind of gives it a bit of a better vibe, I guess.
Yeah.
They are soon to release, I think it's still in beta, the same thing, but the B-roll is generated by AI so that it even matches up more to what the person's talking about. And I went, I'm not going to beat this. I'm going to go and spend hours trying to find, someone talking about property in a rocket or something else. And it's just going to generate it automatically.
That's a game, man.
Why wouldn't I use that?
Yeah, there's some crazy stuff coming out. Really, really. Another thing I saw was in Premiere Pro, it'll have your landscape video, right? And generally these will be like panning shots, or it'll be capturing action of someone walking into a frame, because Premiere Pro is mostly for videographers, not podcasters. And there's an automatic thing where you can just chuck that clip into, and it will resize it to a vertical format, so a portrait format for phones, and it will automatically know what to focus on. Like, someone's walking into shot, it'll focus them and it'll kind of pan with them across the screen.
Oh, dude, that's just so much crazy stuff. I'll even give you a funner one. I haven't tried this with audio, folks. So, with speaking, but it would be funny to try. But you can try this with music. So if you use Premiere Pro, I know we're talking about Adobe, but if you have a song that you use on your podcasts, or you've taken it somewhere, and for whatever reason, say the video is 2 minutes, but the song is 5 minutes, you might sometimes just, I'll just cut it off here and I'll taper down the audio so it kind of tails down.
Out, yeah.
Or you can check this out, folks. I'm not lying to you. You can tap the audio sizing and just go cut down to 2 minutes.
Yeah,
and it will auto mix it. Yeah, and it will auto mix it to make it into a 2 minute of the 5 minute and replay it. And I was like,
damn. Yeah.
I was like, Jesus, dude, I've like wasted like an hour, I'm pretty sure, before on doing shit like that. So honestly, that ability, what I reckon will happen though, and I'm calling this out as like my predictor, 3 years from now, what I reckon will be at the ready, it'll just be one big preset that people will sell to people.
I think so, yeah. In
the sense of like, hey, make my podcast sound like this, or make my movie look and sound like, The Sopranos, whatever. And it'll just do all the editing and that's it, done.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's taking away a lot of the, I guess you'd call it fluff. Some people would call it art expertise, the jobs, like, oh my God, these poor videographers, they're not going to have jobs anymore because, the AI is coming along.
I think as always, it's going to, and we've been talking about this a lot. It's gonna, over the next few years, the skill set of storytelling will become even more prominent, because it'll be the deciding factor in amongst everyone being able to create perfect looking things.
Damn, that's a shame, because there was a girl at the gym today who was interested, and I think I told her a pretty shit story, and didn't work out so good. Well, it was all right. It was just I tapered off, man. I had no idea where I was going with the story, and I'm like, where was I going with that? Jeez. Anyway, just like this story right now. Classic podcasting. Good job, Karen. Anything else you want to talk about? Anything else worth mentioning before we wrap up?
I think we leave it there. I think it was a good long chat about the podcast stuff.
Yeah, I do want to thank Patricia in the chat. She was saying, yes, I like the video. So we'll see what we can do, Patricia. I really would like to create something for you, but we'll just have to see at what expense and at what
honestly
ability to do that.
You know what I would be prepared to do?
What's that?
I would be prepared to do, because I've got 2 phones. I would be prepared to just set up my phone on a holder and like just leave it on charge and just live stream ourselves on Instagram while we're chatting.
Yeah, there's also that's doable,
because it's literally zero effort on our part.
Yeah, it's doable. We'll figure something out. Coolies. All right. And also thanks for Lucas and Maxwell Law. That is he says está muy bien. Max, that's Max from the gym one. He's learning Spanish as well.
Muy bien.
Muy bien, muy bien. Awesome. Okay, thank you everyone for tuning in to another Mere Mortals episode. Next week we're going to be talking about some strategy decisions wise, probably more related to the content side of things rather than the actual production. So tune in for that next week, and then the one after that will be the hopefully the very last one before I go to South America. So
That'll be exciting.
maybe we can have a drink at yours or something. Just keep it a casual one. Do something. But yeah, we'll talk about that more next week. This is a value for value podcast, so we do this all free upfront. We just ask that you, for this value that we provide you, that you give something back to us in return. You can do this multiple ways. Time, so you could share this with a fellow, someone who you might know is looking at doing podcasting, wondering about what sort of tools and needing stuff, and what, from people who've been doing it for 4.5 years, what do they recommend? You don't need to get into the nitty gritty weeds of this type of microphone versus this, or this brand's better. Like, chill out. It's going to be good. You could share some talent with us. So if you know ways of some of the problems that we're experiencing, if you know a way of like doing video onto YouTube without having to use one of these services like Riverside or whatever, hit us up. I know it's possible to do three things like Discord, and there is a thing called Clean Feed which I want to use. So I might be asking for some help for some people with that. Which is basically just a way of doing the audio one without having to record through. We can just record separately on our side. It's not too hard, so that might not even be necessary. And finally, just sharing some treasure. So sending some money through our way. All of these things. The Opus Pro does cost money. The Adobe Audition, you already heard, costs $90 a month. So we would love if you could send some through. Best way to do that is via Boostagram. So once again, sending a message directly within your podcasting app, but you could also send in a PayPal donation. That we'll give that away to other people, but to help support everything that else is going on. But it's very nice if you send it through. It's and attaching a message to that as well. I think that's it. I think that's it for today. One. Take us out.
I think that's everything. No, thank you very much, everyone who has tuned in. Once again, we are live Australians time, 7 p.m. on a Wednesday. We will continue to hold that pattern, we think, as current travels, but we'll probably talk about that more as well in the strategy in the next conversation. Keep tuning in. Again, the more feedback we get, the better we can create better content, better podcasts. So do let us know. But we're going to think we'll leave it there. Mere Mortalites, thank you so much, wherever you are in the world. Juan out.
Karen out. Bye. Ciao, ciao, ciao.
Ciao, 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 ciao. Muy bien.